Okay, so we're discussing the two goats. The two goats had to be equal in size and value, look alike. We said it's not ma'akiv.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I have yahrzeit for my father. We learn the Shlomo ben Avram Yehuda.
Learning Lil Nishma Shlomo ben Abram Yehuda, Neshama of Isha ben Aliyah, a Holocaust survivor, but he left a lot. Baruch Hashem.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shama Isha ben Aliyah. Okay, so interesting, difficult sugya tonight, but an interesting sugya. There's a parsha in the Torah called Shchutei Chutz. Here's the parsha. Vayidaber Peri, it's Vayikru Yitzayin. Vayidaber Adonai al Meshalem, Daber el Aaron vel Bano vel Kol Bnei Yisrael, v'amarta aleihem zeh hadava shetziv Adonai lemar. Ish mebeis Yisrael asher yishchat. A person slaughters Eshar or Kesev or Eiz b'machne, or asher shachi michutz lamachne. Ve'el Pesach oil moed lehiviu. Guys, that's the key words. Ve'el Pesach oil moed, to the Pesach of the moed lehiviu lahakar of Karvan Hashem l'fnei Mishkan Hashem. Dom yichashev lishahu. It should be considered murder. Dom shafach v'nichnas ahiyad b'karav amod. This person is v'chuyiv kares. Called shchutei chutz. The halacha shchutei chutz is only by an animal that's roy to be the Pesach, to come to the Pesach of oil moed. It has to be roy to come to Pesach oil moed. So if it's a carbon, let's say you magdash a carbon, guys, but let's say it's less than 8 days old. So we know Miyom Hashmini V'Hala only has to be 8 days old, right? So it's kaddish. You would not be chayv shchutei chutz. Why? Because you couldn't bring it. In other words, you have to be able to bring it to be chayv shchutei chutz. Good. And we're going to use that and segue into a very interesting shaila. Okay. So again, shchutei chutz, it has to be royal to come to the oil moed. Vayikra Yud Zayin.
So an animal, and you brought it anyway, saying
A mum is not right. Okay. So now, Tana Rabban, we're up to Samich Beis Amid Beis. We're 2, 4, 6, 9 lines to the bottom. 9 lines to the bottom. And again, we just gave you the Hakdama, the Pesukim of Shchutei Chutz. Tana Rabbanan. It said the Torah says, Shnei Seirei Yom Kippurim, the 2 Seirim of Yom Kippur. Now, guys, one of them is going to be a carbon, and one's going to be La'azazel, you're going to throw off a cliff. Sheshachton bachutz. You shechted them what bachutz. So what would you say, guys? What would you say before the goyrel?
No, it's not right.
You say it's not right? You'd say it's not right? That's what you would think, correct? You know I'm setting you up, right? Obviously. Achla higral aleim until the goyrel. Chayiv al shneim. You'll be chayiv on both of them for shchutei chutz. It's not a kasha, but it's not how. Why should you be chayiv? You can't bring her as a carbon. Yeah, hang in there, right? Mishehigral aleihem. However, when you do make the goyrel on them, chayiv al shel shem, you'll be chayiv for shechting the one that goes to Hashem. Upata shel azazel, but you'll be pata from the one that goes off the cliff because that is not considered Pesach Oil Moed. Good. It's the hakasha, guys. Why the first 2 before the goyrel? Why are you chayiv for them? Why are you chayiv, right? It doesn't make any sense. They're not kabbalah. It's not right. They're not right. You didn't designate any one of them. Good. Listen to this, and this is the whole sugya. Ad shelehigra aleim chayiv al shneim. But the 2 goats, before you did the goyrel, you're chayiv on both of them. Lemay chazi. What are they seen for? Guys, they're not roy to come to the oil moed. So why are you chayiv for shchutei chutz? Amar Rav Chisda, hoyel. In Shas, often we have the sugya of hoyel. Hoyel, since this could have happened, I'll say the halacha. Hoyel v'roy l'seir, hanase bachutz. Since they're roy to be, the seir that's brought bachutz, the carbon musaf, in Bamidbar, Perik of Tes Pasuk Aleph, guys, listen up. There is a third one. There's a third goat that's brought, but it has nothing to do with Yom Kippur per se, by the avodah of Yom Kippur. It says, on the 10th day of the 7th month, Mikra Kodesh Yelchem V'Nisim Esnafshei Sechem. We know it's the halacha of Yom Kippur. Umin Chasam Soiles Bulav Hashemen. Shloish Asron Lapar, Shnei Asron La'ayel, Ayel Achad, Yisron Lakeves Echel Shavas Akvasim. You bring these 10 kabbanis. Now, guys, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Sir Izim Echad Chatos. Milvad Chatos HaKippurim. Aside for the Chatos HaKippurim, the one that is going to go L'fay L'fnim, and the one you're going to throw off a cliff, you have a sayer that you're going to bring as the carbon musaf. Good? Says Rav Chisda, Hayel, that these 2 goats, before the goyrel could have been that carbon musaf, it's considered roy to come the Pesach Chayil Mayed, and you be chayiv for shchutei chutz.
Designated for.
You didn't do a goyrel yet.
You
You
didn't
didn't-
designated for the garden.
It wasn't designated. It wasn't designated for goyrel. It doesn't mean nothing.
Did I put these?
It doesn't mean nothing. Garnish. Before the goyrel means nothing. Zero. Since these animals are roy to be the carbon musaf hoyel, the star of hoyel, since they're roy to be, then they are considered what? They're considered shchutei chutz. Says Rashi, l'seir nase b'chutz, kol echad, each in one of these individually, hayaroy l'akrivoy l'chatas hamusaf shal yom kippurim b'midbar chav tes pas yigad aleph hamur pashas pinchas. Good.
What do you have in mind when you check?
What? Mach nicht weiß. You shechted it. Bachutz. You shech. Question. You don't have any mind anything. I shechted a korban bachutz. You have an animal. We don't care about your mind. You're shechting now a korban bachutz, right? Your mind doesn't make this a korban. At least for this, it doesn't. At least for this, it doesn't.
So why is it just like checking it to be able to eat? What's that?
No. These are korbanos. They have kedusha to it.
But it's not a carbon if you didn't have a mind for.
Again, no. It is a korban. These are animals are going to be One's going to be Lashem. And one's going to be Lazazel, they're not just Tamazay, full in the backyard. They have Kedush Lekuf. You will magdish them as Karbanis, right? You magdish them. But again, so now, Fred the Gemara, great kasha, guys. If you buy into the Hoyel, guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. If you buy into Hoyel, yeah, why did you have to go ahead and jump to Musaf? Why don't we say Hoyel, since either one of these could have been the Ser that's Nasa Lufnim? One of them is going to be the Neser Nas. In a minute, after the goyrel, what's one of these animals going to be? It's going to be the carbon that you bring inside, right? So if you're dealing with Hoyel, right, the whole reason it's going to be chayiv is because of, why do you need because of Musaf? Why don't you say you're chayiv on one of these animals? Because one or these animals is going to be the one that you're going to bring inside. Fred the Gemara, great kasha. Umay shna l'seir anasa b'fnim. Deloy, why don't you consider the sale nas lefnim? The mechusa hagrala. You're missing the act of what? Of the goyrel. Oh, this is probably buying Avrami, maybe not. L'seir nasa b'chutz nami leichazi. The mechusra avoidus hayoin. Guys, when are you going to bring the carbon musaf? When are you going to bring the seya? After in big day zahav, after you finish all the avoid of Yom Kippur. So in other words, since there's a process that has to take place before you can go ahead and say this animal is a carbon, as we see by the fact that Hoyel, we don't say Hoyel since it will be inside because you need the act of Hagrala, you need the act of what? Of everything being done before. This day, it's going to go ahead and be brought as a carbon, right? This day is going to be brought as a carbon. Good. Now, and for the Gemara, a very, very lamdish teretz. Kesavar of Chista, ein mechusas man lebay bayay. Time is not an issue. Ein mechusas man lebay bayay. Let's go ahead and analyze the difference between a designation that comes to the Hagrala or a designation that comes in a period of time. What's the reason I can't say Hoyel, this animal we brought inside, because it's missing something. It's missing a maisa in the animal. It's missing the maisa of the goyrel. The maisa of goyrel being performed on this animal. What's the inyan of the musaf? Why are we missing a maisa in the animal? We're just missing a zman, right? We're missing time. That's not considered a problem. Missing time is not considered a problem. Missing time is not considered a problem. A big lumdis, guys. You hear? By the goyrel, I'm missing a maisa to go ahead and shaf and create in this animal a din. Memela, I won't say hoyel that since you can bring it inside, you're chayiv for shchutei chutz. Masha ain't came to say that this is a carbon musaf, and the only reason I can't bring it is because it's not the right time. That's not considered a problem. Why? Because it has nothing to do with the animal itself. It's a side zaitika issue. It's a whole different issue. It's a nice lumdis, right? One is a chesaron in the object in the animal, and the other one's a chesaron in an external thing. Says Rashi, Le'inyan seir hachitzain ein kan chisaron ma'isa begufay. Le'inyan the musaf, there's no chisaron ma'isa in its body. El chisaron zman shedayin le'egia zman hamusafin. You haven't reached the time of musaf. Uzman aroy lebay bayoim, and a time that will come that day. Ein zeh chisaron zman. Aval hagrola, but the act of goyrol to create the animal. Afagav the life ma'isa begufanhi. Even though it's a side point that takes place externally, the Amoran Aliyah Legoyel Mitet Kalpi Hima Keves, the drawing is Ma'akev, Avlanacha, placing the goyrel on the animal in Keves, Afilu Hachi, Hoyelu Mitzvah Murabahem, he kim Mechusamaisa. Since the mitzvah is said regarding them, it's the Mechusamaisa. Okay, so let's review. We know there's Allah of Shchutei Chutz. If you shecht an animal outside, you chayiv. Why you chayiv? El Pesach or El Moed lo yeviyu, because you didn't bring it to the El Moed. Minsa, that why in order to be chayiv shchutei chutz, it has to be an animal that's royal to be brought to the El Moed. Says the Gemara, a huge chiddush. If you go ahead and you shech the two seirim before the goyrel, says of Chisti Yechayev. Why Yechayev? Hoyel, they can be the carbon musaf. For the Gemara, once you come at the Hoyel, why don't you say Hoyel, they can be the one that goes to Lufnim? And for the Gemara, one is you didn't have a goyrel, the other one is just Zman is time. And just Zman and time, since it's not intrinsically in the animal, that's not a problem. Hashem, the goyrel is considered a Mechusamaisa. We don't say Hoyel when it's a Mechusamaisa. That's what we said so far. Tremendous Lomdish Gemara. Yeah.
We don't say that. If there's an animal, the governor, what it has to be shafted for.
What do you mean?
And you put the animal into the shchutei chutz.
I tell you, shchutei chutz is an aver, it's an error. Whatever you're doing something wrong.
But what's my kavanah of the animal?
Whatever your kavanah is, it doesn't make a difference. You're doing it wrong. You're outside. I could have the greatest kavanahs in the world. I could be mechavan to kachei kedoshim. I can mechavan everything. If it's outside the azara, it's shchutei chutz. Says the Gemara. Ravina. Hashta the Amr of Chista. Now the Rav Chista says mechusal agrolas can mechusal ma'isa dami. You guys right? We're saying the external act of the goyrol is considered missing something. Let's take it. We'll just apply that halacha to a different venue. Hadam Rav Yehuda Meshmuel shlomim sheshchatan koidim shenifsachu d'lasais ha'heichel psulin. If you shech the shlomim before they open up the doors of the heichel, then it's pasul. It's a pasul of shlomim. Shenemar v'shachtu pesach oil moyed bisman shu besuach v'lo bisman shu no. It's got to be zman when the heichel's open and not when it's closed. Now, what about this? Shachton bachutz koydem shenifschu d'lasais ha'heichel patar. But guys, you have a valid carbon shlomim, a full-fledged carbon shlomim. You have good kavanas, Yankel and Avrami. You're mechavin. I'm bringing the shlomim, the Shem Hashem. I'm going to share it with the fellow kahanim. I'm going to share it with the emurim with God, and I'm going to eat it with my family. I have the greatest kavanas in the world, right? You pata. You know why? Because because the door wasn't open. What happened? The door was open. You have cars. Chayv kares. Again, nothing to kavana. Chayv kares. Shachlam b'chutz kaim shenifsku d'lasas ha'hechel pata. My timer. Mechusa pechisa kim mechusa ma'isa dami. That's the end of that sugya. That's the end of that. That. So in other words, if you go ahead mechusa the goyrol. If you mechusa the goyrol, therefore you don't say hayol. So over here also, if you mechusa the ma'isa vadav, mechusa the ma'isa of opening the door, you would be pata. Because why? Because of mechusa psiches kim mechusa ma'isa dami. Now. Rabbi, why did Rav Chista say, guys? What did Rav Chista say? Hayel. Let's go, guys. Let's go back. Go back. If I shech the two seirim before the goyrol, I'm chayiv on both of them. Hayel, they could be the carbon musaf. Since they can be the carbon musaf, I'm chayiv. It's considered val pesach or moed lo yeviyu. That was a huge chiddush. That's just chiddush of hayel, because there's no ma'isa. You're not missing a ma'isa between the action of that. You don't need a goyrol. It's not the right time for the musaf. Guys, what's the answer? A mechusas man right? The fact that it can transpire later on in the day is not a chesaron. So we're cooking with gas now. We're all on the same page. We're good. Hard Gemara, but it's good. I keep on saying it's good enough time. I think you'll understand better. It's good. It's good. Like right. And you go, and you really mean, I'm clueless. Okay, anyway. Yes. It's no. The door is closed. It's mechusas mat. So therefore, it's mechusas ma'isa. It's mechusas ma'isa. It's mechusas ma'isa. It's not mechusas mat. You can bring a shlom anytime. It's a shlom. It's an adav. It's an adav. It's an adav. It's an adav. You bring an adav anytime.
Yeah.
Good. So you're not mechusas man, right? So what's the only chesaron? You should be chayiv shchut, except that what? Since the oil moed is not open, it takes a ma'isa, just like goyrel takes a ma'isa and you're not chayiv, so to shlomim. Okay. Says the Gemara. Umi yisli Rabbi Chisda hoyel. Does he hold of the svar of hoyel that what that since you can bring it as carbon must be chayiv? I've Rav Chisda. Now, guys, outside you saw him a Pesach the rest of the day of the year. What is it? It's a shlomim, correct? Pesach the rest of the day of the year is shlomim. Now, be aware. Do you need a pronounce? Is it automatically a shlomim, or you have to pronounce it a shlomim? You have to pronounce it a shlomim. You need a kira. You need a kira because stamazoi, it's what it is. Stamazoi, it's a Pesach. Good. Okay, let's see. Says the Gemara. Umiyasli Rabbi Chisda hoyel. Does he hold this for Rav hoyel? V'omer Rav Chisda says Rav Chisda Pesach sheshchatoi b'chutz b'shayimos hashana, a Pesach that you shecht outside the rest of the days of the year. Lishmai, if you shecht it l'shem korban Pesach, potter. Why? It's not El Pesach, guys. What's the rule of thumb? El Pesach oil moed le'eviu. You can't bring a Pesach in August. You can't bring a Pesach in July, right? So it's not considered what? El Pesach oil moed. Shaloi lishmai. 1 second. Shaloi lishmai. What is it? It's a shlomim, and it's a kosher carbon. And so you had chayiv. You're chayiv, right? Why? Because it's right to be a shlomim. Time of the shaloi lishmai. The reason why you are chayiv is because you shechted it l'shem shaloi lishmai. You shechted it l'pesach l'shem oila. The pesach l'shem whatever. Hastama. If you shechted the pesach stam l'shmai, who the pata? L'shmai you be pata. If you shech now, guys, is there a hoyel over here? Before you jump to the Gemara, let's go through a hoyel. There's always in Kachim, there's always milchiks, fleishiks, and pyrev. Good. So fleishiks is here. You go. You have a carbon pesach. I could shech l'shem carbon pesach, or I could shech it stam, or I could shech it milchiks. I can shech it for something else. In other words, it could either be l'shmoi, it could be stam, or it could be shloi l'shmoi. So we made a distinction between l'shmoi and shloi l'shmoi. If you shech it l'shmoi, nothing to talk about. You can't be chayav for shchutei putz because you can't bring this to Pesach. If you shecht it shaloi l'shmoi, then you be chayav because that's right to be bought as a shlomim. If you shecht it stam, you be potter. When we learn you only chayav shaloi l'shmoi, it must be stam azoi. You would be potter. Fred the Gemara, why don't we say hoyel? You have Chisda of the svar of hoyel. Why do you potter on stam hoyel that it's right to be shaloi l'shmoi? You should be chayav. If there's a heicha timtza for me going ahead and creating a carbon, that's what we did. Guys, what did we do? We created a carbon for the Seir. We said, since this could be the carbon musaf, we're good, right? So why don't we say the same thing over here? Stam, if you shecht a Pesach, stam, why are you potter? Say, since it could be a shlomim, you should be chayav. It's Rav Chisda talking. Frag the Gemara Kasha. If you're Rav Chisda, Pesach sheshachar b'chutz b'chad shayim esashan l'shmai pata shloi l'shmai chayiv. Time by the shloi l'shmai. The reason you chayiv is because you shechted it is shloi l'shmai. Hastama l'shmai hu upata v'amai lema hoyel v'roi shloi l'shmai b'fnim. Since it's right to be a shlomim inside, you say hoyel, you should be chayiv. What? Again, hoyel means since it could be a kosher carbon. That's all we care about. Whatever it could be, since it could be a kosher carbon, yichayev. We see that from the fact the seirim of Yom Kippur, since they could be a musaf, they're not a musaf. Since they could be, says Rav Chisda yichayev. Since this Pesach could be a shlomim, should be yichayev. That's what we're asking. But he said Yipata. And for the Gemara Hachi Hashta, how can you say Hachi Hashta? How? Hasam by Pesach. You know why Yipata? Because by Akira, you need an Akira. Since it's one carbon, in order to make it another carbon, you have to be oike b'shem. So in other words, if I shecht it shloi l'shmoi, I'm being oike b'shem. If I shecht it stam pariv, I'm not being oike anything. Holoi boy akira. But hi, by the goyrel the shneim, they don't need akira. Guys, They were a chatas and they're still a chatas. That's right. What's the kasha? Let's go back to the beginning of the sugya. Two seirim. I'm shechting him before the goyrel. Since they could be a carbon musaf, chayiv, hoyel. Guys, these seirim, what type of carbon are they? Sechatas, good. Musaf, what is it? Sechatas, chatas, good. We're doing good. They're all carbon chatas. Very good. Shema, good. Pesach, what is it? It's a Pesach. Right to be what? A shlomim. In order for it to be a shlomim, you have to take Pesach off. Over here, by Hoyel, by the two, you don't have to do anything. It was a chatas and it is a chatas. Therefore, Reb Chisda says Hoyel over there. Mashain came by Pesach, we have to change it from Pesach to shlomim. If you don't do that, you don't say Hoyel. We're good? Great. Okay. Says the Gemara Vaita. Rav Shimi Masni Lo b'd the Rabba. The whole sugi, instead of Rav Chisda, he used the name of Rabba. V'koshalei the Rabba, and then he has the kasha of Rabba from Shnei Seirim. He has the kasha from Pesach and Shlomim. Umeshani kidushanina on the chilik between what? Akira and non-Akira. Okay, Geshmak. Now, Kiyosar of Dimi and Ravavin, guys, we were familiar with them. They always went to Bavel, and they came back with members from Rabbi Yochanan. Kiyosar of Dimi, Amr of Yirmiyah, Amr of Yochanan. Pesach sheshachle b'chutz b'shayim of Shana. Pesach that you shechted b'chutz all the days of the year. Bein l'shmai, whether you shechted l'shem shlomim, bein shaloi l'shmai, pata you pata. Amr Avdimi, Amris l'shmai tzkamei of Yirmiyah, bishleim l'shmai you pata loichazile. It's not Pesach el moyed. A Pesach in August is nothing. El shaloi l'shmai, it should be kasha. Amai hachazi shaloi l'shmai b'fnim. It could be a shlomim inside. Why you pata? V'amali akira schutz l'shmei akira. If you shech, guys, in order for the Pesach to become a shlomim, you have to shecht inside the El Moed. You have to shecht inside the Azara. It has to be in the base of Mikdash. And Akira, even if you do an Akira, but if it's Bachutz, it's Pata. So therefore, whether it's the Shmoi, which is not ready to come to El Moed because it's a Pesach, or you shecht it Shaloi l'Shmoi as a Shlomim, and it's ready to be a Shlomim inside, the Akira outside doesn't work. You know, we need an Akira. We're saying from Pesach to Shlomim, you need an Akira, right? Very shmak. However, that Akira has to transpire inside the base of Mikdash. It can't transpire outside. So therefore, you put them both. Kiyasa Ravin, he comes with a different story. Kiyasa Ravin, Amr of Yirmiyah, Amr of Yochanan, Pesach sheshchak lebachutz b'shayim Shana, the opposite. Bein l'shmoi, bein shaloi l'shmoi chayev. Fa'afil l'shmoi, guys, a Pesach in August, l'shmoi, you be chayev v'shkutei chutz. For Tanan, mechus zman, if you're missing a zman, bein begufoi, bein bebailim, whether it's in the animal or whether it's in the bailim. Guys, mechus zman, the animal is very easy, right? It's not 8 days old. It's not 8 days old. When bebailim being there, how is the owner the one has to bring the animal? Right? The ezem mechus man bebailim, hazov v'hazava v'hayoledes v'hamitzoyra. Guys, what do you all have in common? Give me. They're all right. They're all tumah that's yotzim migufay. What do we know about tumah that's yotzim migufay? They're all mechusa kippurim. How many times have I told you this? Many. And I will continue to tell you. I got Bez Hashem a lot more years telling you this, right? Sheikrivu chatasam. They all bring a chatas, guys. Va'ashamam. Only the mitzvah brings an asham. Bachutz pturim. If they bring them but potter, you know why? Because they're mechusas man. It's before 8 days. However, oiloseim v'shalmeim bachutz chayavim. Oiloseim v'shalmeim bachutz b'chayav because it's in a dava. Since it's in a dava, it has nothing to do with their mechusas man, right? It has nothing to do with mechusas there. Chayavim. However, for Amr of Chilkiya by Tuvi, Loi Shonu Ella, that says in Oshim Bachutz, this Mechutz man, that your potter is Ella Lishmai. Only if you bring the Oshim Lishmai, then it's potter. Ava Shaloi Lishmai Chayev. But Lishloi Lishmai, you'll be Chayev, because it's an Eila. Says the Gemara, of course, it's a good carbon. Says the Gemara, Lishmai Mia potter. What? Lishmai, why is it potter? Amai name a Hoyel Varoi Shaloi Lishmai Bifnim. Again, the same svara of Hoyel. Since it's right, even though Lishmai is pata, the Ashim is pata. Why don't we say Shaloi Lishmai, just like the Ashim is pata, Shaloi Lishmai, Shaloi Lishmai should be also, well, Lishmai should be chayiv, since I could possibly say what? Shaloi Lishmai, a Hoyel on a Shaloi Lishmai. Guys, again, Ashim Lishmai pata, Shaloi Lishmai chayiv. Why is pata on the Lishmai? Why don't we say Hoyel on the Shaloi Lishmai? So the same teretz we gave above. You need Akira. Hachi Hashnim, Hasa Bay Akira, Hacha Pesach B'Shai Masa Shana, Shlomim Ninu. Pesach B'Shai Masa Shlom is Below Akira. This time, my guys, this man Yom holds why Pesach Lishmoi during August Yechayev. He holds you don't need an Akira. He holds automatically it's Shlamim.
It's not bad.
Yeah, he said automatically. In other words, we have two different shitas. We have a shita, one that tells you need Akira by Pesach, one says you don't. Over here, he's saying again, you're sechting a Pesach Lishmoy Shaloi Lishmoy Yechayev, guys, right? Shaloi Lishmoy Pasha Yechayev. It's right to come to the Moed. Why Lishmoy Yechayev? It's a Pesach in August. The answer is, you know what a Pesach is in August? It's automatically a Shlamim. You don't need an Akira. Okay. Rav Ashi Masni Chayev. Rav Ashi says that we said that Ravin, he said Chayev Kidarmina, like we just said. However, Rabbi Yomi Midifni Masni Pata, he says your Pata, the Shaloi Lishmoy Lishmoy, Kasava Pesach Shai Masashana, Boy Akira, you need an Akira, Akira Bechutz Lishma Akira. Okay, that's what we just said. Upligi Rav Kilki Bar Tuvi, who said that you do not need Akira and you'll be Chayev. Okay, so he said before, Anasam Shaloi Lishmoy Bechutz is Chayev. So you see what you need an Akira Bechutz. You see Akira Bechutz, have you Akira? An Akira, guys, an Asham that's brought, Shaloi Lishmoi, you be Chayev. Where is the Akira? You see, he must hold on Akira Bechutz is what is Shmei Akira. Amamar, going back over the Brisa. Mishehigrul Alehem, Chayev al Shel Shem, Upater al Shel Azazel. Now that made sense, guys, right? Let's go back. Guys, let's go back. Gemara gets easier. I think. Going back to the beginning of the daf. After the goyrol, you have one's Lashem and one's Lazazel. You shech them outside. So the one that's Lashem, you be chayev chatas why roid to come to the El Mayed. It's right to be a carbon. The one Lazazel is never a carbon. You're throwing it off a cliff, so you pata. Good. So that's what the Gemara says. Amamar b'shegro aleim chayev al shal shem upata al shal Lazazel. Tan Rabbanon. Now we're going to bring in the pasuk that I introduced the shir to. Guys, this is the pasuk of Shchutei Chutz. Ish mi beis Yisrael, asher yishchat shorei kesev vayez b'machne, oy asher yishchat michutz l'machne, and then it says in pasuk Daled, vel pesach el moed le'aviyu, lahakriv korban laHashem. This is all Sukha Gil and Daled. Now, korban sheimeya ani afilu kachei bedek habayis. The Rashi says, "Reisha de Brisa b'Toras Kahanim is Hachi Yisya. Yachal Shechit Chulin b'Fnim Yechayev. I might think if you shech Chulin inside Yechayev, v'dinhu Tamaleima Korban. Ala Korban Uchayev and Chayev ala Chulin. Now the Gemara picks it up over there. Korban, if you would say Korban Shemei Ani Afilu Kache Bedek Habayis, even Kache Bedek Habayis, and you magdash an animal for its value, and to work in the Beis Hamikdash or something like of that sort, but not Kedushas Aguf. Shenikru Korban. It's called the carbon. Shnemar v'nakri ves carbon Hashem. It says by Midyon they brought close to the carbon of Hashem. There wasn't a carbon; it was just kedushas adamim. Avaloymar they'll pesach oil moed leheviu. So it's not enough to be a carbon; it has to be a carbon that's roy to be brought to oil moed. Call hey guys, this it's very funny. I told you this in the beginning line. The Gemara wouldn't the Gemara been a lot easier had they introduced this at the beginning of the daf. Call a roy le pesach oil moed. Anything that's right to come to the Pesach al-Mayed, chayev alav b'chutz. Then you chayev shchutei chutz. Kol she'ein roy lePesach al-Mayed, ein chayev b'chutz. Now, oitzi elu, I'll exclude these. She'ein roy lePesach al-Mayed, v'lei oitzi ser mishtaleach, take out paras chatas. V'lei oitzi ser mishtaleach, shu roy alav lePesach al-Mayed. So I might think that you chayev shchutei chutz on what? Guys, the Ser Lazazel is making into the Almaye. You're making a gyral on it. It's coming into the Beis Hamikdash, right? You're only sending it out afterwards. It was a candidate to be a carbon. So I might think that candidate would be mechayev me if I shech the Ser Lazazel b'chutz. Talmud Laima laHashem, the pasuk laHashem. Mishim yuchad laHashem. That would be more is a carbon laHashem. Yotzi elu shem yuchad laHashem. Right. Ulashem. Now it comes out over here. Lashem is being moitzi, right? It's being excluding the Seir Lazazel. So now the Gemara is going to go off in. It's mashma over here. Lashem is an exclusion. I'm going to show you a Gemara where Hashem is an inclusion. Over here, you want to say that what since it's right to come to the El Mayed, Lashem. No, it's not very Lashem. I'm going to show you a place where Hashem is an inclusion, right? It says Hashem Haitzihu Uriminu Ales Yustira. It says Umayoim Hashmini Bahala. Guys, he writes that. that a carbon can only be after 8 days old. You can't bring a carbon until it's 8 days old. It's a very geschmack or achayim in the beginning. On that pasuk, Hashem completed on the 7th day. What do you mean Hashem completed on the 7th day? Hashem completed the world in 6 days. He didn't complete in 7 days, right? Says the Arachayim, Hashem gave the world its neshama on the 8th day. He says that on the 7th day. He said the world was in a state of unrest. It was quaking. It wasn't working. It was like in a state of unrest until Shabbos came. But Shabbos b'menucha. V'yom hashivi shavas vayinofash. V'yom hashivi shavas. Says the heebie-jeebie. It got Shabbos got its neshama. V'yom hashivi shavas vayinofash. Lashon vayinofash. It got its neshama, and that's why a child is on the milas on the 8th day, and that's why an animal is 8 days old, because it's not finalized till the Shabbos passed in their life. That guarantees 8 days guarantees a Shabbos, a complete Shabbos will pass in his life. So very geschmack. So this pasuk says, "Umayom hashmina yiratzeh lekarbin isha laHashem." What is isha laHashem? Elu leishim. That's makrav to fire. Minayin shlo yakdishenu mechusas man. How do you know that what you should be magdish an animal that's mechusas man? That's less than 8 days old. Come le mekarbin laHashem lerabbos. This is lerabbos ser mishtaleach. It comes to include the ser mishtaleach. Guys, the ser mishtaleach has to be more than 8 days old. It's not a carbon. Machneshois. So what do you see? Lashem is to include. By the first pasuk, it's excluding ser mishtaleach from shchutei chutz. In the second pasuk, it's including the ser mishtaleach le'inyan what? Le'inyan b'chusas man. That it can't be b'chusas man. So what's the teretz? So you have one place they have a kasha. One place it's an exclusion, and one place it's an inclusion. So Amar Rabbi says, Rabbi, no, I got a teretz for you. What's my teretz? Hasam in Yonei Dekra, you have to look at context. V'hacham in Yonei Dekra, you have to look at context. Hasam over there, it says Del Pesach by the Shchutei Chutz. It says Del Pesach comes l'rabbis, comes to include the Seiya, guys. Guys, the Seiya is in the ballpark. You're bringing it to the Pesach Almayah, right? Are you bringing the Seiya Mishalech, guys? Is it making it to the Almayah? Yes. But by the time of the Goyrol, it's coming in. So Memela, therefore, what's Lashem? To take it out. Look at context. So in context, Lashem is to exclude. However, Lashem lahoitzi. But Hacha over here by Mechusas man, the Isha lahoitzi Lashem, the Isha comes to go ahead. Since the same Mishlech is not a carbon, correct? It's not a carbon. So it's out of the ballpark. So what does Lashem come to do? Bring it into the ballpark. In other words, you have to look at the context and see where the Seir is placed. So we look at the context of Shchutei Chutz. I mean, Shchutei Chutz is Vel Pesach Lo Yaviu. 1 second. Is that include the Seir? It does, because it's in the Almayim. So therefore, what does Hashem come to do? Take it out. Okay. Mechusas man. In other words, the same Mishtaleach has to what? It has to be what? It has to be Mechusas man. Now, it has to be a carbon. What does Yerotze mean? In Yiddish, abavilling. You have to bring it out as a carbon. Are you bringing it as a carbon? So is it in the ballpark? So what does Hashem come to do? Put it in the ballpark. So therefore, you look at context, the Hashem goes ahead and influences how you're going to darshan. Guys, good? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Taima, the Rabbi Rachmana. The reason why what we're going to say that it's Mechusas man is only because the Torah does it. Guys, in other words, without the Torah telling me, I would think that the Seir Mishtaleach, right, it's no problem being Mechusas man. I need the Torah to include it. Without the Hashem, I would say. Now, guys, let me ask you a question. Is this Seir Mishtaleach a candidate to be a carbon? You did a Goyrel, didn't you? Could the lottery have chosen this animal as a carbon?
But before that,
1 second. 50-50 chance. So is that animal going to be bought that day as a carbon? So how are you here? Of course it can't be Mechusas man. It can't be Mechusas man, not because of the Ribuy of Pasuk. It can't be Mechusas man because it was a candidate to beat him on Hashem. It was in the ballpark. It was on the ballot. It could have been. Could have been a contender, right? It could have been, right? It could have been. What happened? It's a great kasha, a bomb kasha. Like, why do I need a pasuk to tell me that Seimer Shaleach can't be Mechusas Man? Seimer Shaleach can't be Mechusas Man because it had to have the capacity to possibly be the Korban Hashem. It's a Gavaldic kasha. It's such a good kasha the Torah the Gemara yesterday. Says the Gemara. Taima the Rabbi Rachmana. Holy Rabbi, have Amina Seimer Shaleach Kodesh be Mechusas Man? You'd say that it's Kodesh if it's missing Zman? The goyel can only be kaveya and something that's right to come to be the Korban Hashem. I'm Rav Yosef, how money? So the guys here to bomb kasha? Guys, you all here, yeah? It's a geshmaka kasha. Gudak?
I mean, we had a different kasha from a total body, but they had to be equal. Like, what can we ask from that? That they had to be the same. Hashem had to be the same thing as our Zola, right? They had to be the same, look the same age, same everything. Could have used that as
but this is a better question. This is enochinami, but that was not ma'akiv.
Right.
Because we said it. If not, it's not ma'akiv. But this is much more powerful. It had to be. It's a geshmak. It's a gavaldic kasha. Okay, guys, outside. Very, very. We're going to hit this sugya big time. Let's say in the process of bringing the seir, you lose one. The blood spills. One runs away. What's the status of the other one? Is it out of the ballpark? Well, you have to, again, it's a big machlokes. It's a big machlokes. It's a big machlokes. Is it out of the ballpark? No, we're going to see. No, we said in the Mishnah. We said in Motzei Shabbos. We said sheni doesn't mean the sheni of the first pair or the second pair. It's going to vensach yankel. It's going to vensach on that. It's going to depend upon that. Okay, so it's called nidachim, out of the ballpark. So now, says the Gemara. I'll give you a teretz. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hamani, who's the Tana who needs the Hashem? Who's the Tana who needs the Hashem? Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hamani, who's the Tana who needs the Hashem to go ahead to say that a Seimer Shaleach Mechusas Man is a problem? Is Chananah Mitzrihi. The Tnan, Chananah Mitzri Omer, Afilu Dam, because even if the dam isn't because an animal dies, maybe chaveroi, you bring another one, umazvigloi, and you go ahead and you pair it up, and it's mashma without a goyrel. Let's say it's mashma without a goyrel. So let's say you have the blood in the kais, you have the blood in the kais, and one of them dies. Let's say the Seimer Shaleach dies, and you bring another one. Good. That other one has to be more than 8 days old. And you didn't have a goyrel on it. So I needed Hashem to tell me that. Fred Marakasha, why do I need a pasuk Hashem to tell me the Seimer Shaleach has to be 8 days old? It has to be 8 days old even without the pasuk, because it has to be part of the goyrel. And in the goyrel, it could be Hashem, right? And for the Gemara, beautiful teretz. What happens if I can create a Seimer Shaleach without the goyrel? Maybe I would think that one can be less than 8 days old. How could you create a Seimer Shaleach, guys, without a goyrel? Very good. I go ahead, I shechted l'shem. I have the blood in the kais. And now the Seimer Shaleach dies. What do? You bring another one. Did you have a goyrel? No. One second. Did you have a goyrel? No. Can this one be less than 8 days old if you don't have the pasuk Hashem? Yes. Therefore, you need Hashem to tell me? No. Again, what's the kasha? We know in the end it can't be less than 8 days old, guys. We know that. The Gemara is asking, why do I need a pasuk to tell me that? I know with the fact that it's part of the goyrel. And for the Gemara, I can create a hechetimsa. I can create a way that it won't be part of a goyrel. What's that? If it dies and you have the other one, you're going to bring what? A seir to replace it. So I would think that seir that we replace it could be less than 8 days old. Therefore, I need Hashem to tell me, no, it has to be more than 8 days old. Just saying, that's what Hashem says. Hashem tells me to include it. Okay? That's what it says.
Isn't it a blanket rule that it has to be 8 days old?
Where from where? Where do you know that from?
So for the pasuk.
So blanket rule means a pasuk. So Fred the Gemara now, I don't need that pasuk.
Why?
Because it's in the goyrel. And the goyrel means it has to be choice to be a carbon. That one that's going Lazazel, if the luck of the draw would have been that it would have fell on him, it would have gone Lashem. That's a valid carbon, of course. That can't be 8 days, less than 8 days old. That's the Gemara's kasha. Yes, no, maybe? Most of it. Okay, one more time, guys, one more time. Very good. Guys, listen up, you get it. It's easy as far. We know in the bottom line that this Seil Azazel cannot be less than 8 days old. Good? I know it from a pasuk. The Gemara's question is, I should not need a pasuk to teach me that. I should know it by the simple fact that it had the capacity to be a carbon that was brought. You took 2 ashkari wood, and then someone, I forgot his name, Ben Gamla, he went ahead. Yehudi, where are you? He went ahead and he made it silver, gold, right? He made Ben Gamla, Yeshua Ben Gamla, he made it gold, yeah, and he put on one and the other. The capacity could have been that this one that said Lazazel, it could have been Lashem, and therefore it's a carbon. And if it went Lashem, of course it can't be. Any carbon has to be 8 days old. So Fred the Gemara, why do I need Hashem to teach me that the Seila Azazel has to be 8 days old? It has to be 8 days old because it had the capacity to possibly been the one that goes to Hashem. That's the kasha. So the Gemara's answer is, I can create a Seila Azazel that didn't have the capacity to be the one Hashem. What's that? If it dies, the Seir dies, and you have the blood in the kais, like Chanam Mitzri, you just bring another Seir to take its place. So without the pasuk, I'd say that Seir could be less than 8 days old. Kamash Malon, the pasuk Hashem, no, that one also has to be 8 days old. It's beautiful, beautiful numbers. Okay, says the Gemara. The problem is, now that you understand it, you know what's going to happen. Now that you understand it, the Gemara is going to say, not so fast. Guess what? You know what Chanam Mitzri holds? You need a goyrel. You need a goyrel. You need a goyrel. You can't just replace it. Shred the Gemara. Aimed the Shamalei L'Chanan Mitzri, the Leslie the Chuyin. You hear from Chanan Mitzri that he doesn't know the din of the Chuyin. Guys, the Chuyin mean would be, since the Semish Lech is out of the ballpark, the Kais is also out of the ballpark. So he doesn't hold of the Chuyin. The Leslie Hagroli Mishamalei, Dilma Maisi Umagro. Maybe you bring 2 and you make a goyrel. And if you're once making a goyrel, it has to be what? Right, to be 8 days old. So back to the original question. Why do I need, since Chanan Mitzri holds, you have to make a goyrel. Once you have to make a goyrel, it has to have the capacity to be a carbon. And then what? Back to the original question. Why don't we read the pasuk for?
What would you do with that?
We'll see. You watch you stuff. You let it grace till it gets a mum.
So why would it have to be 8 days old? Because all you're using it for is the,
Again, it has to be right. It has to be Roy Hashem.
because it's a guy.
Yeah, it's a guy. Rabbi Yosef, Hamani, Reb Shimon, he Tanya, Meis Echamehem, maybe Chaverish Leibagrola, Diver Reb Shimon. So, okay, you have a teretz. And Nachinami, you know, Reb Shimon holds that if the Semish Shalech dies, you bring another one. Very good. Without the pasuk, I'd say it could be less than 8 days old. Kamash Mol Hashem L'Rabba Semish Shalech. That has to be what? More than 8 days old. One teretz of Shimon. The one good teretz. Now, Ravina says, Kigoin Shehumum. The Semish Leich got a mum, the Chilalai al Acher, and you go ahead and you machal it on another one. So without the pasuk, you would say that other one could be less than 8 days old. Kamash Malon. Uminot Tamer the pasel bei mama. How do you know what? That a mum is pasel by the Semish Leich? Guys, how do you know? The Tanya the Isha leisitna behem elu chalavim ein liela kulan miksasim minayin tam leim mehem mizbeach zuzrikas damim laShem. The Rabbi Semish Shalech that it can't have a mum. Now, so you have 2 dinim. You have din of mum and you have din of mechusas man. Vitzich l'michlev bal mum that the Semish Shalech. Vitzich l'michlev mechusas man by the Semish Shalech. Because rachman mechusas man mishum d'loi matiz mani. Aval bal mum the matiz mani ema loy. I'd say what the Semish Shalech is okay. Because rachman bal mum mishum the moyas. The reason you reject it is because it's the moyas. It's disgusting. Aval mechusas man the loy moyas was not disgusting ema loy. So tzrichini both pesukim tell me that the Semish Shalech can be bal mum and the Semish Shalech can be mechusas man. Good. Okay, one more din, one more teretz. So 2 terutzim. One teretz, guys. One teretz is of Shimon that you don't need a goyrel. So Mamela, you need the pasuk to teach me that despite the fact you don't need a goyrel, still it can be mechusas man. A second pasuk that's speaking about mum, that if you get a bal mum, it's transferred over. That what it has to be more than 8 days old. That's what he the pasuk for. And a third pshat. We have the din in the Torah. Oisev espenoi lois shchatu. Oisev espenoi biyamecha lois shchatu. You can't shech the mother and a child on the same day, or a child and the mother on the same day. You can't shech them on the same day. Good. Okay. If you do it on the same day, right? It's not good. This is another mechusas man, guys. When we think of mechusas man, we think of lack of time, right? Why? Because it's not 8 days old. Let's say you shecht an animal on Sunday. You can't shecht its son on a Sunday. Why? Because you'd be over there, so that's considered mechusas man. It's a different mechusas man. It can very well be 8 days old. It could very well be 8 days old, but you have a slight problem. You have a problem with Espinoi. So says the Gemara, Rava Amar Kigoin, Shahayla Chayla B'Soich Beisai. A person had a chayla in his house, V'Shachat Imoy B'Yom Kippurim, and he shechted the mother in Yom Kippur. So without the pasuk LaHashem, you would go ahead and say, I could bring this animal as a carbon. I could bring this animal as the Ser Mishtalech. I could bring this, it's after 8 days old, so it's right lifnim. It's a different mechusas man. So I need the pasuk Hashem for not the 8 days old. I need it for a different mechusas man. I need it for what? For the mechusas man of Oisev Espino. Right? Says the Gemara, you're throwing it off a cliff. You're not shechting it. So Hami Man Rabbi is saying to Israel, the chiyasu litzoy k'zui shichtasai. Throwing it off the cliff is a shchita. Okay, so let's review. Let's review. Outside, we have a pasuk LaHashem. That pasuk LaHashem tells me that what? That Ser Mishtalech cannot be mechusas man. That it can't be less than 8 days old. Fred the Gemara, why do I need the pasuk to teach me that? I know by the fact that it had to be a candidate to possibly be a carbon to be brought inside. Said the Gemara, we have teretz konder of Shimon, light of Shimon. If you shechted the one that goes LaHashem, the one Lazazel died, all we do is take a replacement. So I would think that you take a replacement, it could be less than 8 days old. If you know, because not a carbon now, Kamashmal on the pasuk, no, it can't be 8 days old. That was one teretz. Another teretz, I said, let's say you got a mum, the Ser Mishtalech, and you got a mum, you switched for another one. That other one you switched it to cannot have it can't be a balmum. But I would think that it could be less than what? Than 8 days old. Kamashman can't be less than 8 days old. Third din, it's not speaking about a mechusas man of 8 days old. It's speaking about a mechusas man of what? Of Oisev Espino. So that I would know from the Goyrel, that I need to come on to what? On the pasuk.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.